Is this everybody? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for joining us. We are dietetic interns with Stony Brook University, and today we will be presenting on how nutrition and physical activity plays a role on keeping yourself and children healthy during a pandemic. My name is Chris Pullen.
My name is Caroline Plachek.
My name is Ali Gonzalez.
And we are very grateful for you joining us today. So this program is put on in part by the Healthy Libraries Program, or HELP. The Healthy Libraries Program has a goal of providing evidence-based health information, screening, and case management to a diverse community of patrons in the public library setting. They also refer patrons to promote access to appropriate health and social services programs locally that will address their health and social support needs. For students to experience interprofessional teams and demonstrate the core competencies based on the Interprofessional Education Collaborative, and to support programs, trainings, and provide resources for librarians and their patrons. So the learning objectives of this presentation are listed below here. So by the end of this presentation, participants will be able to recognize ways to incorporate healthy eating and physical activity during the COVID-19 pandemic, create easy to prepare healthy, affordable recipes that are appropriate for children and adults, understand and apply mindful eating strategies to avoid overeating due to stress and/or boredom, to use ideas for scheduling breaks throughout their day for hydrating, stretching, and quick exercises, identify key vitamins and minerals that are especially important during this pandemic, and to understand ways to limit screen time and the importance of getting enough sleep and how it can affect eating behaviors and overall health. As we all know, COVID-19 has had major impacts on individuals and our society. One of those impacts has been on our eating patterns and our behaviors. So some ways that you can incorporate healthy eating and physical activity during the COVID-19 pandemic would be, before going to the grocery store, writing out a list of foods that you'll need for the week, scheduling meal planning and meal prep for times during the week, fueling your body with nourishing meals, including whole grains, lean meat, vegetables, and fruits. You don't want to skip meals, and part of that is planning ahead. Of course, avoiding overeating and/or stress eating when possible. Limiting the amount of times a week that you order out and eat out. And setting a goal for yourself to keep moving during the day, which we'll talk about later on, as well as staying active by taking walks, working out at home, or by doing an online exercise class.
So now I will be going over some easy and affordable recipes that you can make with yourself or yourself and your family. So the first one will be baked apple chips. So this is a great recipe because it's very easy to make. It only requires 2 ingredients, 2 large apples and cinnamon, but the cinnamon is optional. So how you can make these is first you want to wash and cut out the apple core. Then you want to cut up the apples into thin slices, as you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, the picture of the sliced apples. And then you want to lay them out on a single layer on a baking sheet. And then this is when you have the option to sprinkle some cinnamon if you would like. And then you want to bake them at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. Then at that point, you will turn them over and then bake for an additional 1 hour. So it'll be 2 hours in total. And then you finally remove them, you let them cool down for 10 minutes, and then you enjoy them. This next recipe I'll be going over is the banana oatmeal cookies. So this recipe is a very healthy alternative to other processed cookies or just other types of cookies. It's great because it has banana. Banana is a great source of potassium. It helps to regulate fluid balance, muscle contractions, and nerve signals. And then it also has oatmeal. Oatmeal is a great source of fiber. So we'll get started with the ingredients. So you need 2 ripe bananas, 1 cup of oats, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of vanilla, and half a cup of raisins or cranberries or chocolate chips, or you can mix and match as you would like. So you want to start by preheating the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And then in a mixing bowl, you want to mash the bananas with a fork. That's all you need, just a fork to mash it. And then you want to add the remaining ingredients, so the oats, the cinnamon, the vanilla, the raisins, cranberries, or chocolate chips, whatever you choose to use. And then you will flatten the cookie dough with the back of your spoon, and then you will bake for 10 to 15 minutes. So just depending on your preference, if you like them a little soft, you can have them for 10 minutes. If you like them a little more on the crispy side, you can have them for 15 minutes. And then you want to remove them from the oven and just let them cool down, and then you have some amazing, delicious, healthy cookies. The next slide is this slide will be talking about an actual meal. So the other two, one was a snack, one was more like a healthy dessert. This one will be a meal. So this is the Tuscan-Style pasta with white beans. So this recipe is very easy to make. A lot of these are common household items, and it's very simple and it doesn't take long to make it. So what you will need for this recipe is a 12-ounce box of whole wheat pasta. So this is just your standard box of pasta. And then 1/4 of a cup of olive oil, 5 large garlic cloves. And if you don't have fresh garlic cloves, you can also use minced. So 5 garlic cloves would be equivalent to like 5 teaspoons of minced garlic. So that works just as well. And then you will need 1 cup of diced tomatoes, preferably low sodium, not drained. And I'll explain why in just a second. And then a 1/4 cup of thinly sliced fresh basil leaves. So this is optional. If you don't have fresh, you can sprinkle some dry basil as well. That should work just as fine. So you want to start by cooking the pasta according to the package directions. So you're just going to boil the pasta, follow the directions on the pasta box. And then you want to start heating your stovetop. You want to use a large skillet, heat at medium-high heat. And then this is where you want to add the minced or the finely chopped garlic cloves or the minced garlic. You want to heat that for 1 minute. Once that has been completed, then you want to add you want to add the beans. And the beans, if you used beans from a can, you could just drain them. And then if you want to cook them fresh, this is 1 can of beans is equivalent to like 2 cups of the cooked beans. So if you want to make them yourself, you would use 2 cups of the beans. And then you want to add the tomatoes with their juice. You let this simmer for 5 minutes and you can just stir occasionally. Once that's done, you can season with some pepper and add the fresh or the dry basil and enjoy. So now I will be talking about mindful eating strategies to avoid overeating due to stress and boredom. And I know this has been something that is common now with the pandemic in place. You know, we are more limited of what we can do. So it's easy to just, have our kitchen in such close proximity and eat. So these are going to be some mindful tips. So the first one, you want to acknowledge where the food is coming from and who prepared this meal. And you want to eat without distractions. So you want to set yourself up in a place that you won't get distracted. So not in front of a screen or a TV, actually setting a dining table helps. You also want to notice the taste, the texture, the smell, the colors. You can pause during your meal. This is, just slowing the process of something that you do so regularly. The third one, you want to serve in moderate portions. So if you know that you like to pile on a lot of food, it helps if you have a plate that's 9 inches or smaller, so you won't tend to overserve yourself. You also want to enjoy every bite and chew slowly. So enjoy every bite as if it were your last. Number 5, you want to stop eating once you're satisfied and wait a few minutes to see if you're still hungry. If you're still hungry, you can go back for seconds, but after you finish your first plate, just wait a few minutes to see if it's really hunger that you have. Number 6, do not skip meals. So it's a very good idea to set the same time to have your meal. So if you skip breakfast, maybe you might tend to overeat for lunch, or if you've had a long day at work, you might skip lunch and then you'll tend to overeat for dinner and have more of those calorie dense snacks as well. So just having a consistent meal, it can be 3 meals, 4 meals, just whatever you usually have, just having that be consistent. So now this goes back to some mindful eating. So I'm just kind of going to summarize everything that I had talked about. So the first one, cook and eat in a good mood. And I know, as I mentioned, this can be hard during the time right now, but if you know yourself, you know your triggers, maybe there's something that you can do before that, meditate or do something that you like doing. And then once you feel a little bit better, you can go to the kitchen and start cooking. Another one is feel the taste of food. So really appeal to all your senses, the smell, the touch, everything. Really focus on where your food came from. Next is listening to soft and relaxing music. There's a reason why restaurants always have music playing in the background. It does help you, or it helps a lot of people. So that might be something you can try as well. Next is eating your favorite food last. So I know this may not be the case for everyone, but I know my favorite food is usually like a piece of pie at the end. So this is where you can leave that till last. Try to finish your vegetables and your whole wheat products first, and then you can move on to like your dessert after. Next is not multitasking. So again, setting up a table and actually eating in a dining table, having no distractions around like a computer or even your phone. It's so easy to just like have your phone there, but putting it away for the time being can be very helpful to just help you focus on eating. Next is we want to really appreciate what our body does for us and our health and all the great things that food does for us. Next, you want to make sure to drink a lot of water throughout the day and also with your meals. This can help you feel fuller longer, and it can also help moisten the food as you're eating. And of course, last but not least, you don't want to hurry. So again, it's easy to get in that mentality where we do the same thing every day and it almost becomes instinctual, but really stopping to think about it will help us slow down the time.
So now that we went through some of the principles of mindful eating, I think we can all identify some areas in our lives where we do not practice mindful eating, but are rather practicing mindless eating. So in order to combat that a little bit, what we're going to do is a quick activity of making a top 10 list of activities that you can do in place of mindless eating. So all you need is a pen and a paper. And real quick, we'll go through an example of what some of ours were. So some of our ideas, taking a walk, going for a walk with your dog, watering plants, doing stretches, listening to music, calling a friend, or playing a board game. So sometimes when you notice that you're not actually hungry, but you're just eating out of boredom, these are some of the things that we thought of that we do in order to kind of take our mind off of that. So now we're just going to give you a couple minutes to fill out your own list. Don't worry if you can't think of 10 activities right now, but just try to get a few down. Don't worry if you weren't able to get 10 activities. More than likely you got at least 2 or 3. And that brings us on to our next section, which is creating what's called SMART goals.
Yes, so now we will go over setting some SMART goals. So as we know, a lot goes into setting SMART goals, only because we want to be able to hold ourselves accountable. And it's not exactly that it's hard, but we just need to know how we can effectively set a SMART goal. So here are a few factors that go into setting some goals. So you want to make sure that it's specific. So by specific, we have here an example, 15 minutes of physical activity per day. So we see here that we are designating a time for it and the amount of times we're saying per day, or 20 reps of exercise per day. Another factor is you want it to be measurable. So counting every rep of exercise that you do, or even having a stopwatch set. So your phone has a stopwatch, you can use it on your watch. Anything that might be helpful to actually measure the amount of time that's going into it will be very useful. The next factor is you want it to be achievable. So, if you haven't been doing exercise for a long time, if you've been sedentary for a while, you don't want to just jump into something so overwhelming right away. You want to start little and work your way up so it can become sustainable over time. So let's say that you haven't done exercise and you're a little rusty. Maybe you want to start small by adding 10 minutes of exercise to your day. And once you can manage that, then you can add a little bit. It's okay to start small and take small steps. That's how you'll most likely achieve your long-term goals. The next factor will be the relevance. So as humans, when we attach meaning to something, when it becomes something that is purposeful for us, we're most likely to succeed at it. So for this instance, let's say that you have a family history of cardiac disease, and you know that you want to, see your grandkids grow up, you want to be around and be able to do outdoor activities. So this might become relevant to you, and you might have a purpose to want to improve your cardio or exercises a day. Another factor is time. You need to set a specific time frame for every goal that you set. And it's okay if your time frame is within a month or within 2 months or within 6 months or a year. It's whatever works better for you. We all have a busy schedule and they all look different. But as long as you set a specific time frame, you can hold yourself accountable for it.
And while the examples that we listed right here are primarily aimed at exercise, you can also do it with your eating and your food behaviors just as well. So for example, if you're wanting to drink more water, you would start out by setting the specific portion. So maybe in a day you want to drink 64 ounces of water. Then you would have to have a way to measure that. So you would have a bottle that you could measure the ounces with. You want to make sure that it's achievable. Can you actually drink 64 ounces in a day? Relevant. What does that mean for you? Why are you drinking 64 ounces a day? Maybe it's because you tend to drink other things besides water. And then a time frame for the goal. So by the end of the week, you'll work yourself up to 64 ounces.
Yes, thank you. And it could also be, adding 2 more servings of vegetables a day, or in a week, adding 5 servings more than you usually have in a week. So they can all be catered to what your specific goals you want.
Next, we're going to talk about hydration. So staying hydrated is very important. You want to make sure that you're drinking plenty of water for overall good health. When your body, unfortunately, becomes dehydrated, this can cause confusion, drastic changes in mood, overheating, and overall, you can also get constipated and kidney stones. So water aids our body in various ways. We've listed some of the ways that water aids our body that we found was most important. And that includes having a normal temperature range between 97 to 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Water helps to lubricate and cushion our joints, protects our spinal cord and other sensitive tissues, also helps to eliminate waste through urination, perspiration, and bowel movements. And also water helps us to keep full. So sometimes when we're not drinking enough water during the day, we mistaken hunger for thirst. So making sure that you drink water in between meals and even before and after meals as well. You want to make sure that you're getting enough water during the day, and that will help you to not feel hungry as frequently or in between your meals. There's many ideas for ways you can stay healthy, stay hydrated and healthy, of course. You also want to make sure you have a water bottle with you at hand, and preferably a refillable water bottle. There's many facilities that have water bottles, refilling stations. Of course, now those are limited due to the pandemic, but you can always have a water bottle on hand and try to find a refilling station. You can also mark your water bottle with lines that will tell you when you should be drinking water, so you make sure that you keep your water intake at a higher level. You can also be very creative with your water bottle. So you can store your water bottle in a fridge. You can also add different fruits to your water bottle. So if you don't like plain water, that's fine. If that's one of the reasons that's stopping you from drinking water throughout the day, you can add a lemon wedge. You can make an infused water bottle. So you can put some mint, you can put lime, maybe a slice of an orange, and that will help you to drink more water during the day. And you definitely want to try to eliminate the sugary drinks. So even if having a small goal of, instead of having a soda or having a sugary drink with your lunch or with your dinner, try to replace that for a glass of water. So that's a small achievable goal that you can do day by day and see the benefits of doing so. So here we actually have a picture of one of the water bottles that I mentioned. You can buy these water bottles, but you don't have to necessarily. If you have a water bottle at home, but it doesn't have these markings on it, you can create your own. You can start from whatever time of the day that you begin your morning all the way until you go to sleep, and just count how much water you're drinking throughout the day, and you can refill it as well. So this is just a great idea to stay accountable to your water intake goals each day. So next, what goes hand in hand with hydration is actually moving your body and stretching. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we haven't been stretching so much or exercising as much as we have before. That's not the case for everyone, but we did want to touch upon stretches and ways to move your body. So on the left-hand side, we have some beginner stretches, and on the right, we have some more advanced stretches. Maybe taking the time later this week, or maybe even today, if you want to try some of these stretches to get your body moving. Even stretching your body for 5 to 10 minutes a day, you will see the great benefits of it. You can stretch once you wake up in the morning. Maybe you can stretch before you go to bed at night, or you can maybe stretch if you work out during the day, before or after as well. So that's another option for that. And then we also wanted to touch upon vitamins and minerals. We believe that that's very important, especially now during the COVID pandemic, to make sure that you're nourishing your body, you're eating foods that will give you a variety of vitamins and minerals. But the next few slides, we have vitamins and minerals that we've included that we believe are one of the more important ones to look at, especially during these times. First is vitamin D. So why is vitamin D important? So our body makes vitamin D from sunlight. However, due to the fact that it is wintertime, we're not outside as much. So it is a little bit difficult to get vitamin D from the sun. So there are different ways we can get vitamin D during the winter, and that includes getting it from food sources. So vitamin D is important because it helps build strong bones by increasing calcium absorption in our body. And it's also beneficial in preventing osteoporosis. Vitamin D also helps our immune system combat bacteria and viruses, and it also is essential for muscle and nerve functions. So vitamin D has a lot of benefits to our body. And we can get vitamin D. These are some of the sources of vitamin D, and they include canned tuna, canned sardines, egg yolk, mushrooms, canned fresh salmon, and canned fresh trout. So these are great options to get that vitamin D. Canned food is also a good choice, and it is budget friendly. So you want to choose options that meet your needs and also that meet your budget. But when you are choosing canned food products, try to look for the lower sodium options. That's also a helpful tip. Just when you go to the grocery store next time, try to pick a low sodium option when possible. Vitamin C is another important vitamin that we wanted to include. Vitamin C is also known as ascorbic acid, and it is considered an antioxidant. Vitamin C has many different functions. It is needed for the growth and the repair of body tissues, and it also helps with wound healing. Many sources of vitamin C include citrus fruits, so that would be your oranges, your grapefruit, lemons, limes. These are all packed with vitamin C, but you can also find vitamin C in bell peppers and strawberries and in tomatoes and many others as well. You can look for, if you can't find these fruits fresh, You can get them frozen. They have frozen strawberries, they have frozen mango, they have many different types of fruits. But when you're looking at frozen fruit options, try to choose the ones that don't have any added sugar to them. You want to make sure you're just getting the whole fruit that's cut up and frozen, not fruit that's with added sugar. So you definitely want to be careful when purchasing these in grocery stores. Next, we have thiamine, so vitamin B1. And thiamine is important because it has a role in energy metabolism and the building of tissues. It is also necessary for growth, development, and the function of our cells. And with thiamine, if you eat a diet that's very high in white or milled rice, or if someone is consuming a larger amount of alcohol, this can cause poor food intake. It could alter our metabolism because it creates a low level of thiamine in the body. So definitely making sure that you're eating a well-rounded diet to avoid a low level of thiamine. And to do so, we've included foods that are higher in thiamine. So thiamine is found in foods such as whole grains. It's found in meat, eggs, nuts, seeds, wheat germ, beef, steak, pork, and in fish. The most common sources of thiamine are cereals and bread, and many products nowadays in supermarkets, you can find them, they're enriched and fortified with thiamine, like rice, pasta, and flour. So at the bottom, we've included some thiamine-rich foods like walnuts. You can find them in almonds, lentils. You can find it in eggs and salmon. So we've included these different foods that can cater anyone's budget. So even eggs, even grains included, and salmon as well. Next, we have zinc. The mineral zinc promotes immune functions and it helps people resist infectious disease. And zinc is also needed for a healthy pregnancy. Zinc reduces the incidence of premature birth. It decreases childhood diarrhea and respiratory infections, and it also increases the growth and weight gain in infants and in young children. So here we've included 13 different zinc-rich foods that include cereals, wheat germs, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, different types of meat, shellfish, squash seeds, fruits, vegetables, spinach, mushroom, dark chocolate, and nuts. So those are 13 zinc-rich foods, and you can find zinc in many products. And we've decided to give you different options. Once again, budget-friendly, whatever options you want to choose from. It could be found both in meat, in shellfish. It can be found in your whole grains. So zinc is actually found in many food sources. And it's best for you to get zinc and all of the other vitamins and minerals we've mentioned during the presentation from food sources. But if you cannot obtain enough from food, supplementation can be recommended. However, before you take any supplements like vitamin C, vitamin D, making sure you reach out to a healthcare professional, to your doctor, and discuss before taking any supplementation.
So now I will be going over some tips to limit your screen time. So number one, just setting a specific limit for screen time a day. So for some of you that may be 1 hour, for some of you maybe 2. Number two, you want to monitor and discuss the content of everything you're viewing. That includes on your phone, on your desktop at home, on TV. And number three is specifically important if you have children or grandchildren, or even just to have as a discussion with your family and friends. You want to make sure that there's no cyberbullying happening. There's so many different types of social media platforms nowadays, so it's very important to bring this topic up in the time that we are now. Number four, you want to skip through the commercials selling junk food and useless items. So this has become a lot easier with a lot of the streaming platforms such as Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus. There's so many now, so you're able to really skip through the commercials. Number five, you want to select appropriate shows and websites. So, we want to keep our mind positive, so we want to cater to that. So, we will strive not to watch anything that is negative or just something that will not be better for us. Number six, we want to turn off the television while eating meals. So again, this goes back to mindful eating. We want to make it a distraction-free zone. Number 7, we want to make the bedrooms a screen-free zone. So I know for me, I always try to be in bed by 10:30, but sometimes this is impossible because I'll just be scrolling through my phone, and before I know it, it'll be 1 hour, 2 hours. So if you just make it a habit not to have screens in your bedroom, you'll be able to fall asleep faster and get a better night of rest. Number 8, you want to avoid using shows and games as rewards. So don't hold, screen time to such a high regard. So just normalize the relationship with screen time. Use it for what you have to. Number 9, you can add physical activity during commercials. So I know for me, like if I'm watching cable TV and there is commercials, I'll try to do, 10 jumping jacks in between every commercial, or I have a hula hoop, I'll try to hula hoop in between the commercials just so I can get some exercise in for the day. Number 10, you can track your screen time versus the actual time. So every phone has the capability to see how much you've spent throughout your week using your screen or throughout the day. So this is a very useful tool just so you can be more self-aware of the time that you're spending. So now I will be going over some tips for healthy sleeping habits. So at the top, we have a check mark, a yes, for all the things that may help us go to sleep faster and better. So getting up at the same time is very helpful. So I know for me, I have to wake up very early during the weekday, so I don't have to wake up early on the weekends, but I tend to wake up early on the weekends just because if I don't, it tends to roll over and then I feel tired the next day on Monday during a weekday. Or when I go to sleep, also I try to go to sleep at the same time. If I go to sleep really late, like on a Friday or Saturday, usually on Sunday, it takes me a little work to go to sleep because I was sleeping later the 2 days before. So just having a consistent time schedule will really help regulate your sleeping schedule. Taking a nice stroll around the block or going to the park to really just unwind and reflect about yourself will help also. Having a bedtime routine, so having everything you need to do. So I know for me, I like to have my lunch prepared. I like to have, everything that I will be using available. So that kind of just helps me get into that phase, like, okay, it's bedtime now. Another one is to have a comfortable bed. So we all know what we like. So if you like your specific pillow, your specific blanket, make your rest area how you want it to be. And of course, a cool and dark room. You want it to be comfortable. And taking a relaxing bath that doesn't hurt anyone, that always helps you unwind. The things that we want to try avoiding that can be harmful or prevent us from going to sleep is sleeping on a heavy stomach. So having some heavy food, processed foods will typically do this. If you go out late to get drive-through and you're just really full, you might have some difficulties going to sleep. So trying to eat about 2 hours before is generally a good cutoff line. And another one is blue light. So as we discussed, just really trying to unwind later in the day. So for that, it can be maybe I won't use my phone 2 hours before I go to sleep. That will really help also. Another one is hard training. So when we do hard training, whether it's weights or we're running on a treadmill, that'll typically make our heart race faster. So it's going to take some time for our heart rate to go back to normal and for us to really be able to be at ease when we're going to sleep. Other factors are alcohol, smoking, and caffeine. Those could also interfere with our sleeping cycle. So it's best to avoid them later in the night if you can. Caffeine, I know for me, I have a cutoff time. I can't have caffeine past 1 p.m. Another important one is stress. I know during the pandemic, it's a stressful time. There's no doubt about it, but do something you like to do before you go to sleep that relaxes you. For some of you, it's reading a book. And for some of you, it's maybe meditating. So whatever that relaxes you, and maybe this is something that you can take the time to explore and find new ways that relax you so that you can be able to go to sleep on a clear head.
just to wrap up, if you want to get in contact with this program, the Healthy Libraries program, you can shoot them an email above listed there. You can also visit them at that website, and then the phone number is also listed. And just a reminder that this presentation is being recorded and it will be available for future viewing on the website that's listed above. These are the references that we used in our presentation. And now we would love to have any questions from anyone. And just remember, if you're asking a question, you will have to unmute your microphone.
Or if you want to share anything that you wrote on your top 10 list to do, you can do that as well right now.
Can you just go back to the slide before with the references that you used, the resources? Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, does nobody have any more questions? Please don't be shy. We'd love to answer them.
In the presentation, you only kind of covered the vitamin B with the thiamine. Are there other vitamin B components that you would recommend or that are as much beneficial?
Yeah, you guys want to answer? So generally we see B vitamins present in groupings. So for example, you would also, we talked about B1, but you would also have B6, B12, generally a B complex in a lot of foods that have B vitamins in them. For example, if you're looking at any of the meats, those are all going to be a good source of all of your B vitamins. Pretty much the only time that you would have some concern about your B vitamins would be if you were vegetarian or vegan and you did not consume eggs or dairy. And then as well as if you are pregnant or planning on becoming pregnant, as far as folate goes, they do recommend incorporating folate into your diet through supplementation. But that would be a good discussion to have with your doctor. They can also run labs to see if you're deficient in any vitamins. And that's something that I would recommend if you are concerned about it at all. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Yes.
So, what is your opinion or guidance on, the hype, the whole thing about Gatorade, Propel water, like things that promote or advertise electrolytes or like liquid IV, I think there's called. What's your opinion on that
Yeah, so as we know, electrolytes are an important part to regulate fluid balance, muscle contraction, and nerve signals. So what those Gatorades have, they just have like the series of electrolytes. So if you're working out or running for a prolonged period of time, that's when you might deplete your electrolyte balance. So that's the only time that I would really suggest for people to take those type of drinks, but that's of course at your doctor's discretion as well. Anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, generally with the electrolyte beverages, the things to look out for, like for example, Gatorade is also going to generally be very high in sugar, unless you do the sugar-free Gatorade, which then that's generally high in those artificial sweeteners. So for most people that are just, working out at the gym for 30 minutes, doing some home workouts, you really don't need to be concerned about losing too many electrolytes. I would usually recommend for professional and higher performance athletes, they definitely absolutely will need some electrolytes as they're working out. But for most people, the sugar that can be present in them just really isn't worth consuming.
Yeah.
And you also get a well-balanced group of electrolytes from most of the foods that you eat.
Yep. And just to add on a point, if you are concerned about the beverages such as Gatorade that have like a lot of sugar added to it, they do have tablets now that are very low in sugar but have all your electrolytes that you can put in your water bottle and it'll like dissolve, and those are relatively low in sugar. And I know like Noom is one of the brands that does that. So if that's something that you did want to consider, that's also a really great product that doesn't have all the added sugar as well.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Very thorough.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because I find water to be boring. So it's constantly like, oh, should I add like some little thing here, a little thing there? But then I'm like, okay, maybe I should just add lemon or some other like, what do they call the infused water or whatever. So that's why where my question came in through, because it's hard to really, swallow the water because it's just so boring.
So there's a number of things that you can do. Earlier on when we were talking about water, we mentioned adding in some lemon or some lime juice to it. You can also diffuse fruit overnight in the water in the fridge. That's a really good option. Cucumbers are good in it. Strawberries, blueberries, pretty much any kinds of
It makes
fruits.
your water smell good too.
Yeah, your water smells and it tastes fantastic and it doesn't add any sugar to it. The other thing that you can do is if you've tried any of the sparkling waters, those are generally good. I know some people don't like them because they like a little bit of a sweetness to them. In that case, I'd recommend trying to find some stevia sweetener, since that's a natural sweetener, but it doesn't add any calories or sugar to your diet, if you want just a little bit of sweetness in there.
Since we're talking about water, one more question about water.
Absolutely.
Do you recommend, I know there's like, I don't know, like suggestions from people and depending who you hear it from, but I think there's suggestions that maybe you should drink room temperature water rather than cold water because it's metabolizes is different in your system as opposed to cold water. So what's your recommendation?
So as far as the research that I've been able to see, there's not really any main difference in room temperature, warm or cold water on whether it's hydrating you or being beneficial to the cells of your body which are requiring it. Of course, there are some other uses for different temperatures of water. For example, people who are sensitive to hot and cold beverages, room temperature water might be a better option. If you have a dry throat, warmer water, especially using some herbal tea in it, of course, is going to be soothing to that. And then cold water, I know some people really enjoy cold water. I personally don't like ice in my water. So at that point, it's kind of more of a personal preference. But any water that you're consuming is going to be, of course, as long as it's, safe drinking water, is going to be beneficial for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Well, if we don't have any more questions or anyone wants to share anything, then we want to thank you all very much for attending this presentation, and I hope you were all able to take something away from it.
Yeah, thank you all for coming, and thank you for your questions as well. And yeah, it was wonderful getting to have you all with us. hopefully next time in person.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.